So for our next story, I want to highlight this because I saw some people making this story out to seem like a conspiracy by the US. And obviously, if you've listened to the show, I am not one to shy away when it comes to conspiracies, especially when it comes to the US government targeting left-wing countries, left-wing people, or anyone that threatens US right-wing hegemony.
But my government's lied to me so often, they've lost their credibility with me.
This story from AP. Explosion at luxury Havana hotel kills 22, injures dozens. And I actually read a slightly newer story. The death toll has risen to 30 people. So let me read from the body. A powerful explosion apparently caused by a natural gas leak killed at least 22 people, including a child, and injured dozens. This article later on it says injured about 75. It's probably more than that, especially since the death toll has increased. Continuing from the article, it blew away outer walls from a luxury hotel in the heart of Cuba's capital. No tourists were staying at Havana's 96-room Hotel Saratoga because it was undergoing renovations. Now, some of this definitely can sound fishy. We know the U.S. has wanted to overthrow the Cuban government basically since it started. We do know that, it is rather interesting that they targeted an empty luxury hotel because, as this article highlights, the Cuba economy relies on a lot of tourism, and that has been largely decimated by COVID-19. So this was like the last renovations before this was open up for business. It's a great way to target Cuba's economy, especially when facing like an international world. But, all of these sources from Cuba, the president who visited the site, President Miguel Diaz-Canel, and then a hospital worker, all of these officials have basically said that it was, quote, this is what the president said, quote, "It's not a bomb or an attack, it is a tragic accident." And they spell out what Cuban TV's reporting, which is basically that a truck had been supplying natural gas to the hotel, and at some point it must have happened. So the impact of the story, why I wanted to bring it up, is twofold. One, it is an immense tragedy that we didn't hear very much about, and I will say that's another reason to believe that this was not some type of attack by the US, because we didn't hear much about it. Like, if the US was involved, this would be front page news for weeks. I guess it does have a lot to compete with Ukraine and Roe v. Wade, but still, I just want to highlight the tragedy of it. But I also want to make a point that nothing about this particularly seems like a conspiracy, and the Cuban government does not believe it to be a conspiracy. And because of all of that, I just think people should be a little smarter. They should pick their strategies a little better when determining what to promote as a conspiracy, as a U.S. intelligence operation, because this just doesn't seem like that. And there are true conspiracies theories and there are false ones, and you gotta be a little smarter if you're gonna try to parse those out. You can't just go full Alex Jones mode and say that everything is a false flag, everything's a conspiracy, etc.
I don't like them putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay.
But, rest in peace to those people who died in this tragic accident.
George Soros.
I have all these other government documents.
This next story, I've been following it a little bit, and there's not much to say about it yet, but it just interests me because you don't hear about a lot of stories like this. So this is from CNN, the headline: Missing Alabama inmate and corrections officer abandoned their vehicle last week. Officials are investigating whether they have another car. If you're not familiar with this case, I'll give some background. There was a prison guard who was escorting this Alabama inmate to court, and they ended up going missing. I was following the story when it was still like, we don't know where they are, and I was like, that's crazy. How does that happen? It seems like they made a deliberate getaway, and we don't have a lot of details about why the prison guard went with him. We'll probably learn more, but again, this is just such a strange case, and it doesn't say a whole lot about politics or anything, but I do feel like it says kind of a lot about society. So let me read some of these some of this article. So it says, quote, "The escape vehicle used by Vicky White and Casey White, the missing former Alabama corrections officer and inmate," I don't believe they're related. I think it's a coincidence they have the same last name. "Their vehicle was found in Tennessee, and authorities are trying to determine whether the pair may now have another car. The orange 2007 Ford Edge SUV was in a tow lot in Williamson County, Tennessee, about 2 hours north of Florence, Alabama, where the fugitive investigation began. The tow truck driver who picked up the Ford remembered it when he saw a local TV story this week about the missing officer and inmate. The new information means the couple likely abandoned their vehicle less than 4 hours after they left Florence on April 29th, perhaps due to mechanical problems. But now authorities are back to square one when it comes to what the pair may have done next, and are working to determine whether the pair stole another vehicle or got a ride with someone else." And then here it gets into the motive, which I'm not sure if this is actually true or just speculation, but it says, "The officer and the inmate, who may have had a romantic relationship, have been on the run since they left the Lauderdale County Detention Center on April 29th. It's also interesting because she is almost 20 years older than him, so it seems kind of strange if they're romantically interested, but like, maybe they didn't. I really don't know. It's kind of hard to say. But so Casey White, the guy in prison, in 2015, he threatened to kill his ex-girlfriend and her sister and said he wanted police to kill him. Casey White should be considered extremely dangerous. He was in the Lauderdale County Jail awaiting trial for the capital murder charges against him, and was also serving a 75-year sentence for a series of crimes committed in 2015. So I really hope his ex-girlfriend and her sister are safe. I mean, the guy is also just a scumbag, and you know this because they release photos of his tattoos. He's a straight-up neo-Nazi. He has a Confederate flag on his back that says Southern Pride. He also has a sleeve, and within that sleeve is a very clear SS symbol. There's probably more neo-Nazi imagery and right-wing imagery, but his tattoos are kind of bad. It's kind of tell what the rest of them are. I guess my best guess about what went on here is that maybe she thought highly of him and wanted to impress him, and he might not be conventionally romantically interested in her, but if she was willing to get him out of prison, then he'd go along for the ride, because this story ends with a section about the nature of their relationship in the past. So, quote, "Singleton has described the officer as an exemplary employee who had the respect of her colleagues and an unblemished record. The sheriff could not provide a reason why the officer allegedly aided the escape, saying the behavior isn't the Vicky White we know. The officer had made some significant financial decisions leading up to April 29th, including selling her home for well under market value. Vicky White and Casey White's relationship can be traced to 2020 when the inmate was taken to Lauderdale County for arraignment on murder charges. The pair had a, quote, special relationship that was confirmed in part by other inmates who told authorities Casey White, quote, was getting extra food on his trays and was getting privileges no one else got, and that was all coming from her. So this story, the whole thing's just really strange, but we'll see if these people get found. I'm assuming they will. Hello, this is your host Christian piping in. This is not a live to tape moment. I am adding this in later. Shortly after I recorded that, Vicky White was found with Casey White in a town called Evansville, Indiana. They went on a high-speed chase, and Vicky was driving. At some point, they had picked up a Cadillac after their abandoned car had been left behind. And so when the chase ended, Vicky White actually committed suicide. She shot herself. They searched the car, and they found $29,000 in cash, which was very likely and most probably money left over from when she sold her home. So she is now dead, and this story is now somewhat resolved, although we don't really know exactly all that went down for this situation to happen. But anyway, just wanted to update you on that, and let's get back to the show.